So sit back, take your shoes off. Y'all come back now, you hear?
Option. It's a question that the scientific community has pondered since the earliest attempts at space exploration. Who is better equipped to explore the cosmos? Mankind or the machines man has created? When we planned long-term missions to probe the far reaches of our solar system, it was clear that machines were better qualified. But for other missions, it seemed more important that humans be the explorers. But what about future missions? Will it be more important to have a sophisticated, fast-learning computer that's invulnerable to sickness and old age? Or will we need the decision-making abilities and communication skills that only a human being can provide? Well, by the middle of the 21st century, this question may have a very simple answer. We may be able to have the best attributes of both combined in a single package. In an Omni magazine article, writers Hans Moravec and Frederick Pohl examine an intriguing new alternative for the future of space exploration. In Souls in Silicon, set sometime in the next century, humans are able to achieve electronic immortality by transferring their brain to a computer.
We discussed the possibility of actually incorporating a real human being as a personality inside a computer. Programming the computer with all of that person's memories and attitudes and fears and hopes and longings and emotions, all the things that make up the personality.
Pohl and Moravec suggest that in the hospitals of the future, brain surgeons and computer experts will team to perform mind transplants. Surgeons will expose a part of the brain called the corpus callosum, which is the group of fibers which transmits information back and forth between the left and right sides of your brain. Then the computer experts take over. A fine comb with 500 million connectors is inserted and makes contact with each of the fibers in the corpus callosum. It then intercepts the information as it's transmitted and downloads it to a computer. Then, long after your body is gone, your brain will live on inside a computer chip.
Because once you're in the machine, you don't want to just stay there. You want to be able to interact with the rest of the human race. And the way you do that is through something like a television set. You could have the television screen show your own face, actually talking, making the same sort of expressions as you do normally.
Now that you're living inside a computer, new worlds will open for you, including the potential for long-term space travel. Since even the nearest solar systems are still light years away from Earth, it's unlikely that mortal human beings would live long enough to make the trip, and even more unlikely that they'd ever make it back home.
If you're stored in a silicon chip, you can ride out the voyage and get there intact. There's nothing that's going to keep you from surviving that length of time.
Pohl and Moravec aren't saying their view of the future will definitely come true, but say that it is a possibility.
You can't predict the future. All you can do is invent it.
When we come back, Inside Space, we'll introduce you to some people who have an alien perspective. When the Mars Observer was lost in space last summer, protesters in front of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, charged that the U.S. government was suppressing information that the observer had been taken by extraterrestrials. Now, we don't know if there's any truth to the claims of this high-orbit robbery, but we do know that space, unsolved mysteries, and the U.S. government do provide loads of material for a new television show. In 1947, did a UFO crash in the New Mexico desert? And are the bodies of the aliens being held at Hangar 18 of the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio?
When I turned to get out of there, I was hit by a beam of energy from this craft.
In 1976, was Travis Walton abducted by an alien spaceship in Arizona and examined for 5 days before being returned to Earth?
I know it sounds crazy, but that's exactly what I saw. 5 creatures being deposited on the road.
In 1988, did Ed Walters witness and photograph an unidentified flying object hovering near his home in Gulf Breeze, Florida? Do we really know all there is to know about these apparently unexplainable incidents? Or is there valuable information out there that could help solve these mysteries? Many in the UFO community believe that evidence pertaining to these and countless other incidents does exist, but is being held back by the United States government.
Here's 103.
And that's the basis for the new Fox television series, The X-Files. David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson play two FBI agents assigned to investigate the bizarre and unexplainable.
The X-Files are a fictional group of file cases in the FBI that have to do with unsolved cases having to do with unexplained phenomena. They're not actual documented cases, although probably there are similar cases that people have experienced.
Are you suggesting that I go before the violent crime section and present a profile declaring that these murders are done by aliens?
No, of course not. I find no evidence of alien involvement.
Well, what then? That
There's just so many ways that we can go with this. There's so many stories, there's so many ideas and fantasies and realities and twists on reality. I mean, it's open. It's completely wide open.
Yeah, I'm just,
What are you looking for? What happened?
We lost power. Brakes, steering, everything. We lost 9 minutes.
But in reality, do these X-Files even exist? And is the FBI really investigating cases like those seen in the series?
These files, we do not know if they exist or if they don't. We're assuming that some cases like this do exist. We don't know that they're all put together in one group in the FBI building called the X-Files. Obviously, they're probably not. But that these files exist at random, probably yes.
You're saying that time disappeared. Time can't just disappear. It's a universal invariant.
Not in this zip code.
Now we're joined by Antonio Huneos, who is the international coordinator for the Mutual UFO Network, as well as the editorial consultant for Fate magazine. Welcome to Inside Space. Now tell me, do we really have any evidence that suggests that there really is something like the X-Files and that the FBI is secretly investigating this?
Well, I don't think the FBI normally investigate these types of incidents unless they have a perception that a crime has been committed, because that's what they're mandated to do. However, if we look at the classified documents from the government, we find documents that even do have the X category, and they relate to UFO incidents in the past, mostly in the late 40s and 50s. Here I have one, for instance, flying saucers observed over Oak Ridge area, internal security X. Another example is the cattle mutilation affair, which was going on very strongly in the mid-70s. And of course here a possible crime was being committed.
Another infamous UFO legend is the Roswell, New Mexico incident. Now, what do you make of that story?
This happened on July 5th of 1947, where a UFO, or something at least, we have enough evidence that something did crash outside of the city of Roswell. And the Air Force, there was a big base in the city of Roswell. They even put a press release at one point admitting that they had recovered a flying disc. This was later denied by a general, and they said that it was just a weather balloon. Now, the remains of this were sent to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is in Dayton, Ohio. And that's where the stories or the legends of Hangar 18 come. Actually, there is no Hangar 18, but there's a building called 18A. But we do know that at least something is being hid there, because Senator Goldwater, a very famous politician who was at one time chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and he was also an Air Force general in the reserve, he tried to get access to something called the Blue Room in Wright-Patterson, and he was denied access.
Bottom line, do you think the U.S. government has any information about aliens or UFOs, and they're holding it back from us?
Yes, I think we can even prove, using the government's own documents, that they're hiding at least something. At least we know that they have information that they have not released, perhaps satellite pictures and things like that. And of course, the deepest suspicion is that they have more than information, but actually the remains of a crashed UFO and its dead alien occupants. We still cannot prove this 100%, but we think we are on the right track.
Antonio, thank you for joining us on Inside Space. When we come back, a look at the Delta Clipper project.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Commercial space travel is still down the road a bit, but the success of some new technology has brought the idea of buying a ticket and going up into orbit just a bit closer to reality. Here's an in-depth look at the Delta Clipper projects. Steve Hazer is a man with a mission. He wants to help the human race get into space in a big way. And as a space systems and technology analyst for the U.S. government, he has some good ideas about how to do that.
We have finally gotten to the point where we have the technology that if we put it together in the right way, mankind can have space.
Steve has brought his family here for the rollout of a new kind of launch vehicle. It's called the Delta Clipper Experimental, or DCX, and it's the first step in developing a new type of launcher which will go all the way from Earth to orbit as a single reusable piece, with nothing falling off of it. In other words, a single stage to orbit.
The single stage to orbit concept is really the basic concept of reusable launch vehicles. The bottom line is it gives you a lower cost system. You aren't throwing away hardware each time. Plus you learn a lot every time you fly it.
This could be a much less expensive way of getting into space, and if it works, the human race may finally be able to leave its cradle.
This craft is the first rocket ship to take off the way God and Robert Heinlein intended. It takes off, it moves under its own power, it comes back and lands on its own 4 legs in a blast of flame. This is from the science fiction films of the 1950s, now made reality by taxpayer money.
That's right, your tax dollars at work. But just how this came about is a little complex. The Delta Clipper is the peaceful child of the Strategic Defense Initiative, invented under the Reagan administration and known to many as the Star Wars program. SDI needed a cheap way to get payloads to and from orbit. After looking at design concepts from several aerospace contractors, a team led by McDonnell Douglas Corporation was selected to build and fly the first single-stage rocket. Managing the single-stage project is Bill Gaubatz.
A shuttle has been designed for carrying up to 65,000 pounds of payload and fairly large sizes of payloads. And this is more like a pickup truck, so you get a lot of economy of operation that shuttle has not been able to achieve.
And that's just the beginning.
Pleasure cruises into orbit, not unforeseeable.
For the cost of taking a good ocean cruise, you'll have an alternative. You can take a cruise around the total world from space.
You can fly the orbital version of the Delta Clipper for about $1.5 million a flight. So if you can carry 100, 120 passengers into orbit, this means the ticket price is going to be about $14,000. Shucks, you just don't buy a new car this year.
We could easily get hotels or recreational facilities on orbit so that the people could not just necessarily cruise around in space, but have a place to go and spend several days, possibly up to a week, in a very exotic recreational environment.
You'll be carrying up shop workers, you'll be carrying up accountants, you'll be carrying up, God forbid, lawyers. Everybody you can imagine will have jobs in space doing something or other.
United Airlines, Northwest Airlines, Federal Express, United Parcel, they've all been sitting in on the design meetings of this thing. They're interested, they're there already.
And so there was a lot riding on the little DCX as this crowd assembled at White Sands Missile Range in September of 1993.
The vehicle will now descend. Coming down, landing gear is out.
Yes.
Now powering up, powering up.
Steve Hazer wouldn't have missed this for the world.
What I'm really trying to do here is to give space to future generations. What the heck? I might even get a crack at it myself.
Single-stage rockets like the Delta Clipper are a direct threat to people whose jobs depend on the building and selling of throwaway rockets. And that's why a group of congressional staffers recently met behind the scenes to try and kill the Delta Clippers before they can be built. These conflicts of interest happen all the time in the space industry, and Inside Space will be here to keep you up to date. When Inside Space returns, we'll show you how you can take a trip through the universe. Our celestial imagination knows no bounds, but actually getting there is a problem. So when you want to see what a planet with 6 suns looks like, or if you want to travel through the radiation of an exploding star, Inside Space correspondent and chairman of the Hayden Planetarium here in New York City, Dr. Bill Gutsch, can show you how it's done.
Here at the Hayden Planetarium in New York, we've been taking people on trips across the universe since 1935. Chances are you have a planetarium in your area as well, and they also put on sky shows in their dome theater. How exactly do you create these sky shows? Well, we thought it would be fun to give you a look.
There's Amy and I as producers and programmers.
Well, we build all the special effects.
I'm working on an all-sky panorama of the planet Jupiter.
I'm sort of like a video, special effects photographer, model maker, and artist.
So I take my art form seriously.
So you're coordinating the efforts of the artists, the technicians. We also have to check the facts in the script to make sure that it's astronomically correct. And we work with the script writer, the composers, to coordinate the entire script and all the visuals that go with it.
What we have here is an odd-looking piece of artwork, but the effect is to give the motion of a planet turning. And what I've had to do is I've painted the continents of the Earth 5 times over. The colors here look much, much brighter than what you'd actually see. But up in the dome, versus being in a room with one slide projector, we have several different projectors running, adding light, and then it dims down the color.
We try to hope that you think it's a movie up there, and we don't use movies, we use slides, and we make them move so they look like you think you've seen a movie.
You come up with an idea, you want clouds to move or a nebula to wave. We have to design it so it does that. And we'll build a machine similar to this, and if it works the first time, great. If it doesn't, we have to modify it, slow up the speed of the motor, change the texture of the glass to make it wave. So we can go in and out any which way, from a blob to a clear image with this particular wheel.
The heart of all shows is a storyboard as well as a script. And a storyboard helps Dennis, myself, and Susie understand what we each are talking about. We can always revert back to a scene. We have the model here that I have to build and videotape. We have the planet Neptune here that Dennis has to go and airbrush and paint, for instance. And of course, the stars are courtesy of our Zeiss machine or maybe the laser system.
What we do is we take a laser, which is a very bright beam of light, and we put it through a prism, and we divide it into its basic colors. So this group of controls right here is red, then this is yellow, green, and blue. Each one of those colors goes to a tiny set of mirrors that are about the size of your little fingernail. And one mirror moves the beam, the color, right and left, and one moves the beam up and down. And when you put these two motions together, you get patterns and circles and squares and all kinds of geometric patterns. There's a very high contrast ratio between red and black. And if we keep the intensity just right, we'll have a figure that will be falling through the stars. And when you move those stars, everything that you're seeing says that you're moving. So you actually feel like you are moving, you are flying through the stars.
This is the Zeiss 6 star projector made by a company called Zeiss. And it is what puts the stars up on the ceiling, up on the dome.
I consider it the star of the show. It can project about 6,000 individual points of light. People can't go out to look at a black hole or off to the center of the galaxy or even to look at a multiple star system. So it's fun to create those visuals that people will never be able to see firsthand.
With over 500,000 people watching the Sky Show each year, Hayden is one of the largest planetariums in the country. In fact, there are over 1,000 planetariums in the United States. Well, now, if you have any questions or comments about anything you've seen on Inside Space, please write to us. We'd love to hear from you. Write care of USA Network, 30 Rockefeller Plaza, 33rd floor, New York, New York, 10112. I'm Julie Golden. Thank you for watching Inside Space. We'll see you next week.
Distributed by Warner Brothers Domestic.